When I was 18, I took a babysitting job just to make a little extra money. By the next morning, police were dragging me out of bed. The girl claimed I assaulted her. I spent months in jail before a broken camera and a neighbor's footage exposed the truth. I never expected to share this online, but after everything that happened, I need to say it somewhere. What should have been a simple babysitting shift became the worst 7 months of my life, and somehow I'm still here. I want people to understand how quickly a lie can destroy someone and how difficult it is to rebuild even when the truth finally shows up. I was a college freshman then, broke, stressed, and always looking for side gigs. Babysitting wasn't something I planned. It just happened. My mom's friend, Mrs. Miller, needed someone one night. I was free. It went smoothly, and the kids liked me. After that, she called me whenever her regular sitter canceled. Her kids, Tommy, 7, and Emma, 5, were easy to watch. No chaos. No trouble. They liked that I let them stay up 20 minutes past bedtime and built ridiculous Lego towers that nearly touched the ceiling fan. They called me Big Bro Cameron, which I actually liked. So when Mrs. Miller called that evening, I didn't hesitate. Hey, sweetheart, I know it's last minute, but my sitter canceled. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important, she said, sounding stressed. I checked my schedule. Just studying for a psychology quiz the next day. Yeah, sure, I said. What time? 7 to 9:30. I'll pay extra. Deal. I threw on a hoodie, grabbed my backpack, and headed out. The Millers lived in a warm 2-story house with a white porch and one of those seasonal flags by the door. That night it said, "Bless this home." When I arrived, the kids were already in pajamas watching cartoons. Mrs. Miller was half dressed up, hair curled, heels in hand, rushing around. "You're a lifesaver, Cameron," she said while looking for her keys. "Dinner's done. Kids brush their teeth. Just keep them alive until I get back." I laughed. "I can handle that. Oh, and Susan might come home later," she added. "She's with friends but said she might stop by." My stomach tightened when I heard her name. Susan, her older daughter, 19, a year older than me and complicated. She flirted with everyone, but with me it was more direct, persistent enough to make things uncomfortable. She used to text me during babysitting shifts with lines like, "How's my little brother?" or "Need company while the kids sleep?" I always kept it polite or ignored it. One night, 2 months earlier, she came home while I was babysitting and said she needed to talk. The kids were already asleep, so I assumed it was harmless. But then she said she liked me, really liked me. When I told her gently that I wasn't interested, she fell apart, crying, yelling, saying I thought I was too good for her because I was in college. It was uncomfortable. I told her she was overreacting, and she stormed out. A week later, she acted like nothing happened. I pushed it aside. That night, around 9, the kids were half asleep on the couch. I carried Tommy to bed, then Emma, who mumbled, "Night, big bro," before immediately dozing off. I was cleaning snack crumbs when I heard the front door unlock. Susan walked in. She didn't say anything. She just stood in the doorway staring at me. Same blue eyes, but no smile. Just a tight expression like she'd been crying or was upset about something. "Hey," I said, trying to keep things normal. "Your mom said you might come home." She didn't respond. She walked past me and went upstairs without looking back. Slow footsteps. Heavy. I assumed she had a bad night and didn't think more about it. I finished cleaning and sat on the couch watching a rerun of The Office. At 9:30, I saw headlights. Mrs. Miller was home. She walked in looking energized, maybe from the evening, maybe from the excitement, and smiled. "You're the best, Cameron," she said. "Kids were good?" "Perfect," I said. She paid me, thanked me again, and I headed out. The night felt calm. Cool air, quiet street, my car under the streetlight. Just another babysitting shift. I went home, showered, opened my psychology book, and everything felt completely normal. No signs, no concerns, no warnings. But the next morning flipped my entire life upside down. It started with pounding, loud, aggressive knocking that shook the front door. I rolled over, half asleep, thinking it was maybe a package or one of my dad's coworkers. Then I heard my mom call my name downstairs. "Cameron, come here now." Her voice sounded wrong, panicked. I stumbled out of bed, still in sweatpants. When I reached the bottom of the stairs, I froze. 2 police officers were standing in our doorway. My mom looked pale. My dad stood behind her with his arms crossed like he already believed I'd done something. "Cameron L. Carson," one officer said. Yeah? You're under arrest." I actually laughed because I thought it was a mistake. "Wait, what?" Before I could say anything else, they turned me around and cuffed me, cold metal tightening on my wrists. My mom gasped and grabbed my arm. "What is going on?" "He's just a kid." The officer said something about suspicion of assault, but everything felt blurry. I tried explaining, but they repeated that anything I said could be used against me. My dad's face turned red. "What the hell did you do?" "I didn't do anything," I yelled, but nobody listened. They walked me out past neighbors' windows. Curtains moved. People watched. My heart pounded so fast, I felt lightheaded. I had never even been inside a police car before. At the station, they booked me. Fingerprints, mugshot, everything. Then they left me in a small room with a metal table and a one-way mirror. I kept trying to figure out what was happening. Maybe a mix-up. Maybe someone used my name. After what felt like an hour, a detective walked in. Mid-40s, tired face, messy tie, carrying a thick folder. He sat across from me. "Relax, Cameron," he said. "We just want your side." "Side of what?" I asked. He opened the folder. "About what happened last night at Mrs. Miller's house." My chest tightened. "Nothing happened," I said. "Her daughter came home, walked upstairs, and that was it." He took notes. "That's it?" "Yes." "Susan says otherwise," he said. "She says you cornered her in the kitchen. She says you made her uncomfortable. She says you threatened her." I stared at him in disbelief. "That never happened." He pushed a cup of water toward me. "If you admit something small, misreading a signal, getting too close, we can help you." That's when I realized he wasn't trying to understand me. He was trying to corner me. "I didn't do anything," I said firmly. His tone hardened. "Susan's story hasn't changed. Are you sure you want to stick with yours?" I asked about evidence. He avoided the question, collected his papers, and left. That evening, they finally released me on bail. My mom was in the lobby crying. My dad stood beside her, arms crossed. The drive home was silent until my dad finally asked, "Why would she say that if it wasn't true?" "I don't know," I said. My mom whispered, "Just tell us the truth." I am telling the truth. When we got home, neighbors were already whispering outside. News spread instantly. That night, I sat on my bed staring at my phone. No one texted. No one asked if I was okay. I learned something that day. Innocent doesn't matter when a rumor spreads faster than the truth. The next few days felt unreal. I kept waiting for someone, anyone, to realize it was all a misunderstanding. Instead, things got worse. The detective called again, asking me to come in for follow-up questions. My attorney told me not to speak to them alone anymore, so I didn't go. That only made the detective sound frustrated when he left a voicemail saying, "Your refusal to cooperate doesn't help your case." Cooperate with what? There was nothing to cooperate with. Still, silence felt safer. Classes became a daily challenge. People stared, whispered, or avoided me entirely. A professor pulled me aside after lecture to ask if there was anything he should be aware of. He looked uncomfortable, like he didn't want to get involved but felt he had to. I told him nothing had been proven and that I was handling the situation. He nodded politely and moved on. By that Friday, word had spread farther than I realized. Someone posted vague accusations on social media, no name, but specific enough that people recognized it was about me. The comments were immediate. People claimed they always had a weird feeling about me. A girl in my biology class wrote that I fit the profile. I didn't even know what that meant. My closest friends stopped responding to messages. Only one, Jacob, actually called. "Dude, what's going on?" he asked. "I didn't do anything," I said. He believed me, but I could hear hesitation. Even he didn't know what to think. That uncertainty felt worse than anger. Meanwhile, my parents barely spoke to each other. My dad spent most of his time in the garage. My mom kept asking if I was hiding something. I told her the same thing every time. Nothing happened. Over the weekend, my attorney filed motions requesting access to evidence. The police claimed there was sufficient cause to proceed. They said Susan had given a consistent statement and that her emotional presentation matched a credible report. My attorney said we needed to stay patient. The truth would come out once we saw the full file. Still, patience didn't stop the damage happening around me. Monday morning, everything shifted again. My attorney called me urgently. They submitted new information, he said. The police claim there's camera footage from the house. My heart dropped. "What footage?" I asked. "Where?" According to their notes, a security camera in the kitchen recorded the interaction. I felt a wave of relief, fast, almost dizzying. If there was video, it would show nothing happened. "That's good," I said. "It should be," he answered. "But there's a problem. The police say the footage is corrupted." My relief evaporated. "How corrupted?" "They say the file can't be viewed. Completely damaged." "But that's impossible," I said. "If it recorded anything at all, it'll show I didn't go near her." He sighed. "We'll request a forensic review. For now, the report simply states that the footage exists, but is unusable." It made no sense. Cameras don't just break at the exact moment they're needed. That evening, around 10 p.m., my phone vibrated. An unknown number. I answered. "Cameron?" It was Mrs. Miller. I froze. She sounded nervous, like she was choosing her words carefully. "I heard what's going on," she said quietly. "I don't know the details, but I want you to know that I'm conflicted. Conflicted. Not supportive. Not doubtful. Just stuck in the middle." "What did Susan tell you?" I asked. "She's upset," she said. "She won't talk much. She just keeps saying you made her uncomfortable." "I didn't," I said. "You know me. You've trusted me with your kids for months." She hesitated. "I know, but I also know my daughter." Neither of us spoke for a moment. Finally, she said, "I hope the truth comes out, for everyone's sake." Then she hung up. The next morning, I had to meet with my attorney again. He had arranged a preliminary hearing date and was preparing motions to challenge the evidence. You need to understand something, he said. Even if you're innocent, the process itself can be punishing. But the more consistent you are, the better. I'm telling the truth, I said. And that's what will carry us. But consistency didn't change the way people looked at me. It didn't stop someone from slipping a note into my locker that said, "Stay away from women." It didn't stop campus security from calling me in for a welfare check interview, which was really just them assessing whether I posed a risk to others. It didn't stop my younger sister from coming home crying because a group of kids at school asked if her brother was the one on the news. My entire life felt like it was shrinking, every day smaller, tighter, harder to breathe. Then, a week later, something unexpected happened. My attorney called again. "We received a supplemental report," he said. "There's mention of additional footage from outside the house." "From where?" "A neighbor's security system." My heart jumped. "And?" I asked. "The report says the angle should show the front door area. If it's clear, it could help us." "Do they have it?" "They're still requesting it. But if the neighbor still has the recordings, it could be important." Important. That was the first hopeful word anyone had used in days. I clung to that possibility, even though nothing was guaranteed. For the first time since the arrest, I felt like something might finally move in the right direction. For the next couple of days, the neighbor's footage became the only thing I could think about. My attorney said the police were attempting to retrieve it, but bureaucracy moved slowly. Until then, everything remained uncertain. I kept replaying the night in my head, trying to remember every detail. What time I left, how long I stood at the door, whether anything unusual happened. Nothing stood out. Nothing even came close to what Susan described. Still, doubt crept in. Not doubt about what happened, but doubt about whether the truth would ever break through the noise. On Wednesday afternoon, my attorney called again. "We have the neighbor's video." My breath caught. "Is it good?" I asked. "It's clear," he said. "Very clear. Come to my office." I drove there as fast as I could while trying to keep my hands steady on the wheel. When I arrived, he had the footage paused on his monitor. It showed the Miller house from across the street, the porch, driveway, and front walkway all visible. A timestamp ran along the bottom. "We'll watch it all the way through," he said. He pressed play. The video showed me walking up to the house at 6:58 p.m. It showed Mrs. Miller leaving around 7:05. Everything matched my memory. Time passed. At 9:01, the door opened and Susan walked in alone. She didn't look distressed or upset, just quiet, maybe tired. She went inside and closed the door. Then came the part that mattered most. At 9:31, the door opened again. Mrs. Miller returned home. I walked out a minute later. The footage showed me stepping outside, adjusting my backpack, and heading straight to my car. No rushing, no arguing, no suspicious behavior. "You see?" I said. "Nothing happened. It aligns with your statement. More importantly, it contradicts parts of hers." I felt a cautious wave of relief. It wasn't everything, but it was something real. But then he paused the video again. "There's another detail," he said. "Watch the timestamps." At 9:02:15, when Susan entered, she didn't appear to be crying or shaken. She walked casually, checked her phone, and went inside. Yet in her statement, she claimed she ran home in distress. He took notes. This discrepancy will matter. I felt tension leave my shoulders for the first time in weeks. Not fully, but enough to breathe. My attorney leaned back. "This is helpful, Cameron. Very helpful. But we still need to push for access to the indoor footage, even if they claim it's corrupted." "What if they never recover it?" I asked. Then the inconsistency between her testimony and what we can verify becomes even more important. For the first time, the situation didn't feel entirely against me. Still, the process didn't slow down around me. Online discussions continued. People speculated, argued, and jumped to conclusions. Some said the neighbor footage didn't prove anything. Some said it made Susan look worse. Some insisted they knew I was guilty regardless. My mom stopped checking social media entirely. My dad avoided talking about the case. He still didn't say whether he believed me, but his anger had softened into something more distant. Confusion, maybe. The next week, I had my preliminary hearing. Walking into that courtroom was one of the most unsettling experiences of my life. Even though it wasn't a trial, it still felt like the room was arranged to decide who I was. People sat in rows, whispering while I took my seat. The judge entered. The attorneys stood. The formal process moved forward. The prosecution summarized Susan's accusations. My attorney presented the neighbor's footage. He emphasized the timeline inconsistencies and Susan's calm appearance upon entering the home. The judge listened without expression. Then the judge asked the prosecution whether they planned to produce the interior footage. "The file is currently undergoing technical review," the prosecutor said. "We expect updates soon." My attorney pushed back. We request immediate access to any version of the file, corrupted or not. The judge agreed and ordered them to produce whatever existed. It wasn't a full victory, but it was something. After the hearing, I walked out feeling drained, but slightly better. A reporter outside asked if I wanted to make a comment. I kept walking. My attorney said anything I said could be misconstrued. That night, I tried to relax for the first time in a long while. I watched a movie with my sister, who seemed relieved just to spend time with me. For a moment, things felt normal again. Then, the following afternoon, everything shifted. My attorney called, speaking fast. They turned over the interior footage. My stomach tightened. Is it actually corrupted? I asked. There's damage, he said, but parts are recoverable. Does it show anything? He exhaled slowly. It shows movement in the kitchen. The angle is partial, but you're clearly visible. And more importantly, you're nowhere near Susan. I sat down on my bed, feeling like the room tilted. Are you serious? Yes, he said. The footage confirms your version of events. You were alone the entire time. She never even entered the kitchen while you were downstairs. I couldn't speak for several seconds. The next step, he continued, is submitting this to the court. Once the judge reviews it, the case could change direction quickly. For the first time since the morning of the arrest, I felt something real, solid, and unmistakable: hope. The following week moved quickly. My attorney filed a motion to dismiss based on the new footage. He told me not to get ahead of myself, but it was the first time he sounded cautiously optimistic. Even then, I didn't want to assume anything. I had seen how fast things could turn the opposite direction. A hearing was scheduled for Friday morning to review the recovered video. Until then, I tried to keep my routine steady. Class, home, meetings with my attorney. Nothing more. I avoided social media, avoided crowded areas on campus, avoided anyone who looked like they recognized me. On Wednesday night, Mrs. Miller called again. This time, her tone was different, strained, unsettled. I heard the police found more video, she said quietly. Is that true? Yes, I answered. It shows I wasn't near Susan. She didn't respond right away. Cameron, she finally said, I don't know what's going on with her. She refuses to talk to me. Every time I ask, she shuts down. She won't answer questions. She won't look at me. She won't explain anything. I didn't know how to respond. I felt bad for her, but I also couldn't forget the position I had been put in. She's my daughter, she continued, and I want to believe her. But I also know you. I trusted you with my kids. You've never given me a reason to be concerned. Again, she paused. I just hope the truth helps everyone move forward. I thanked her for calling, but after we hung up, the conversation stayed with me. I couldn't tell if she was preparing to defend me or preparing for the possibility that her daughter had lied. Either way, her uncertainty made everything feel heavier. By Thursday morning, my attorney said the prosecution had reviewed the interior footage and had questions about why their initial report described it as completely corrupted. That's their problem now, he said. Our focus is the hearing. He showed me the footage again so I could prepare for any questions. The video wasn't perfect. There were glitches, missing frames, and distortion along the edges. But the important parts were clear. It showed me in the kitchen washing dishes, cleaning the counter, checking on the kids upstairs twice, and then packing my bag before leaving. Susan never appeared in the frame, not once. The biggest advantage, my attorney said, is that it directly contradicts the timeline she gave. What did she claim again? I asked, even though I knew. She said you cornered her in the kitchen around 9:10 p.m. The video shows you were alone the entire time. I nodded. Hearing it repeated still felt strange. Thursday night, I couldn't sleep. I kept imagining the hearing, what the judge would think, how the prosecution would react, whether Susan would appear. I wondered if she would double down or back away. I wondered if she even understood the position she had created. By Friday morning, the courthouse felt familiar and uncomfortable at the same time. Fewer people were in the gallery this time, but the tension felt the same. The judge entered, reviewed the files, and listened to the arguments. My attorney played the footage on a screen facing the bench. The courtroom stayed silent as the timeline unfolded. Me walking around the kitchen calmly, the quiet house behind me, nothing close to what had been described. When it ended, the judge lifted her eyes. This is significantly different from the initial report, she said. The prosecutor requested time to reassess the evidence. My attorney pushed back, arguing that the delay had already caused measurable harm. After some back and forth, the judge said she would review everything fully before issuing a decision. It was not dismissal, but it was close. Close enough to feel like air was finally entering a sealed room. After the hearing, I stepped outside with my attorney. Reporters stood nearby again, but fewer approached. Most were focused on other cases or other stories. My attorney looked at me. You did everything right, he said. Now we wait for the ruling. Waiting, however, was its own burden. Over the next several days, conversations around me shifted slightly. Some people began asking questions instead of making assumptions. A few acquaintances reached out, cautiously, to check on me. And Jacob called again, this time sounding more certain. Looks like things are turning around, he said. I hope so. Even so, not everyone changed their view. Some conversations on campus became quieter but more pointed. A couple of students avoided me like before, and one person, someone I didn't even know, muttered, "Still watching you," as I walked past. The damage wasn't undone, it had just slowed. On Tuesday afternoon, my attorney called. The judge issued the ruling. My heart raced. She isn't dismissing the case yet, he said, but she granted an evidentiary hearing and ordered a full review of Susan's statements due to inconsistencies. What does that mean for me? It means her credibility is now formally in question, and the prosecution has to explain why the footage was misrepresented. For the first time, the system wasn't leaning entirely against me. Something was shifting, slowly, carefully, but undeniably. That night, my mom knocked on my door. She hadn't done that in a while. She sat down beside me, hands folded. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I should have believed you sooner." I didn't know what to say. She kept talking. "When everything happened so fast, I panicked. I wanted to protect you, but I didn't understand anything. I'm sorry for doubting you." I nodded, not because I held anything against her, but because I wasn't sure how else to respond. The last few weeks had been hard on everyone. Before she left, she said, "I'm proud of you for staying calm through all of this." It wasn't something I'd expected to hear, but it mattered. The hearing was still ahead. Everything wasn't resolved. But for the first time since my arrest, I felt like I could see the possibility of reaching the other side. After the footage and evidence came to light, I was finally back in court. This time, I wasn't wearing a prison uniform. I wore a plain shirt, bolstered by my mom's hope standing beside me. Susan sat across the room with her lawyer, pale and tense. Mrs. Miller was also there, avoiding eye contact. Eric, my lawyer, presented everything: the time-stamped footage, internet router logs, and the contradictions in Susan's testimony. Then he asked Mrs. Miller a simple, direct question. On the night in question, "Did your daughter seem distressed when you came home?" She hesitated, then admitted, "No." She was quiet. I assumed she was asleep. "Did she report any assault to you that night?" Eric asked. "No, not until the next morning," she admitted, her voice trembling. Eric showed the footage again. Susan arriving home alone, calm, at 9:24 p.m., my mom arriving minutes later, and me leaving afterward. No confrontation, no fear. Susan, pressed to explain the discrepancy, froze. When asked if she had lied, she finally admitted, "I didn't mean for this to happen. He embarrassed me. I just wanted him to pay attention." The courtroom went silent. The judge's face hardened. Then he delivered the verdict. My conviction was vacated, and I was released. 7 months of false imprisonment ended in a single moment. My mom hugged me, repeating, "You're free." My dad, stone-faced, left silently. Outside, the air felt lighter. Freedom wasn't just about leaving prison. It was about the truth finally prevailing. But the fight didn't end there. Over the next year, Eric and I pursued the civil case. Susan's team tried to settle quietly, offering a payout in exchange for an NDA. I refused. I wanted the world to know the truth. Nearly a year later, the civil trial concluded. Susan admitted she filed a false report, leading to my imprisonment. I won. The damages weren't about money. They were about restoring my name. People stopped whispering when I entered a store. Some even apologized. My dad didn't attend court, and my mom eventually filed for divorce, refusing to forgive him for siding with gossip over family. I stayed in the small house she gave me, fixing it up slowly, taking pride in tangible, honest work. Rudy, the inmate who taught me how to survive, often echoed in my mind, "Don't let the truth die just because they buried you." Those words guided me through the darkest months, reminding me that even when the world turns its back, the truth cannot be taken. 7 months were stolen from me by a lie, but that lie was finally buried, and the truth endured. If you found this story compelling, please hit subscribe to support the channel. It helps us bring you more real-life stories and lessons about resilience and justice.